Welcome to the Talk Sox podcast. I'm Alex, and as always, I'm here with Adam and Maddie. What's going on, guys?
Doing better than Alex Bregman, that's for sure.
Is that a high bar to clear for you, Adam?
I mean, you'd be
I
surprised.
don't think Bregman can clear a bar right now. So
we did miss last podcast because I was on too many pain meds for an abscess tooth, and I fell asleep during it. So yeah, but yes, I am clearing the bar currently, so that's good.
Maddie, you're still morning Casas, so you're barely clearing the bar.
Barely. I'm also dealing with tooth pain too.
Ooh.
So I feel you, Adam. It's like the worst pain ever. I mean, it's not like tearing your patellar tendon, but it's bad. It's up there.
Alex, the only one without any mouth pain right now? Is that what we're
I get my teeth cleaned in like 3 weeks, so now I'm kind of nervous, but
nice. Go for those regular cleanings, gotta do it.
On a scale of tooth pain to patellar tendon rips, how do we think a strained quad feels?
It's like below tooth pain, I bet.
Tooth pain is the literal worst.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I think like patellar tendon tear and tooth pain are probably like real close in 1 and 2, and then strained quad, I don't know, maybe like 5 or something, probably down there.
Huh. I mean, it's not like
have you had a lot of strained quads?
Occasionally from running, yeah. But it's an easy fix with stretching before and after.
Has anybody told Alex Bregman that?
No.
I was gonna say Maddie's putting herself up for team doctor, like strength and conditioning coach. Alex, have you tried stretching?
He's like, you know what? I never thought about that.
I love it. Yeah, so, I mean, we haven't potted since the Bregman injury, and I guess that's probably the biggest news since in the last 2 weeks. Am I right in that, or no?
I mean, there was still like some first base drama, because
I mean, Abraham Toro has obviously cleared that up completely. So
he's playing better than I thought he would.
Yeah, I mean, he has some pop, which I didn't really anticipate at all. So I mean,
oh no, that was Narvaez that got that home run robbed. Toro hit the home run against the Orioles.
Yeah, Toro hit an actual home run. So yeah, better than Casas was doing. So
yeah.
So can we agree that the division is pretty well out of reach at this point, mainly due to the Bregman injury?
You're gonna make me bring up the standings already. I don't think it's mainly due to the Bregman injury. I think it's mainly due to like how I think the Red Sox in general are playing.
I think if Bregman didn't get hurt, there was a chance for the division. I don't think there's a chance for the division anymore.
Wow,
never say never.
Yeah, I didn't realize we've already slipped to like 4th place. Like that's bad. Okay. Yeah, I mean, the thing about it is that the Yankees aren't like running away and hiding. Like they're playing pretty well, but I mean, they're 12 games over 500. It just happens that the rest of the division is like 500 or below right now, and that's really, that's what's making the Yankees look like world beaters. There's certainly a chance that someone could go on a run and supplant them, because right now you're talking about Detroit has a better record than the Yankees, and like
does Detroit still have the best record in baseball? That was the case.
Phillies might be better.
I couldn't remember. They've been trading it back and forth for a while. I know I went and saw the Tigers in person last Tuesday. Got to watch Scooble pitch, and that was pretty cool. It was the first time I've seen him throw in person.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and he I mean, he did really well. Gave up 2 earned. Might have ended up being 3. He left with a man on third. I don't remember if that person scored. But I did get to see my first foul pole homer at that game. My first in-person foul pole homer. That was neat. I got to explain to people sitting around me who were new to baseball why that wasn't an out or a foul ball or anything and why it was a homer. So that was fun.
Wow.
The Tigers are legit, and I think the Tigers are going to be legit for a while. That's a fairly young team.
I think they're in a virtual tie right now with the Phillies. Phillies have 1 less win, but also have 1 less loss. So it's it's going to be a good race between those two. But yeah, I mean, the Tigers, it's sort of amazing what you can do with like 1 really solid starting pitcher. Because I don't know if
what you can't do with 1 really solid starting pitcher, as we'll get to later in the episode.
Yeah, exactly. It's it is sort of like a tale of 2 cities kind of thing, right? It's just it's like the best of times and the worst of times right now for Detroit and Boston. But I mean, one of the things that Boston unfortunately has going for them is all the injuries, and it's just I know last episode we talked about how catcher and first base were probably the 2 positions where you had the absolute least amount of cover for the Red Sox. Somehow Carlos Narvaez has stepped up and become like our second best offensive player, basically.
I mean, I think that right now he's in second for Rookie of the Year. If the vote were today, I think that he would be in second, and I don't think Campbell's first.
Yeah, I know. I mean, after the first month, it did look like Campbell might have been first. So it's a big turnaround here. What's going on with Narvaez? But I don't think anyone had third base as being a big deficit for the Red Sox, because you figured if Bregman went down, then Devers would go in. And instead, now that the whole first base kerfuffle happened, you just can't ask Devers to literally play any position. So it's sort of like, who do you put at third? And we are going through the kind of litany of potential third basemen now, and it's not going great, I would say.
There was a discussion, I don't know if you guys saw it in our Slack channel, between myself and Caleb after Marcelo's first game. And we'll get to Marcelo here in a little bit. But I think, so it's really an unfortunate situation that the Red Sox have painted themselves into a corner with Devers, to the point that you can't ask him to return to his natural position. If what he said was true after the Casas injury and they told him to throw his glove away, that's wild. And if I was him, I would also be like, I'm not doing this. Like, I'm going to go out here and I'm going to hit tanks and I'm going to go sit on the top step of the dugout and just look chill. Like, that is my job now. If you want me to play in the field, no. So as soon as I wrote about the Bregman injury the night it happened, when he came out and he said that he felt like it wasn't as bad as the injury in 21. He pulled himself out. That's why he didn't run to second. So that way he could go ahead and just kind of take it easy and he'd be fine the next morning. Apparently he didn't sleep at all that night because it hurt so bad. And Cora came out and said, I mean, if you've watched the presser, Bregman looked like he was about to cry. That I think that there's a legitimate possibility that this is a worse injury than what we saw in 21. I say we saw, I wasn't watching a whole lot of Astros baseball back in 21. Or ever for that matter. I was a big Craig Biggio guy when I was a kid. I think that you have to factor in that Bregman is 4 years older now, and he has 4 more years of wear and tear on that leg. And he missed 56 games in 21. So 2 months of the season. I think that that's probably a conservative number for how many games he'll miss, when Cora says that this looks like the 21 injury, which makes me think that it could be a worse injury than the 21 injury, And so I'm very worried that I mean, we're looking at the end of July, right at the trade deadline, when he might be beginning a rehab assignment. We saw Trevor Story come back super early from a rehab assignment last year and offer very little in terms of value to the team.
Not like currently.
No, drastically different than current Trevor Story. I think that if Bregman does come back at any point during the season, it's a plus no matter what. But I think that there's a legitimate chance that that's mid to late August. And if we're mired in 500 ball now, I don't see the team being major buyers at the deadline to push the team over the edge. And so if I'm Alex Bregman, do I come back to a team that's still sitting around 500 and not making a playoff push when I can protect myself and hit free agency and probably make more money over a longer period of time than what I'm being paid by the Red Sox right now?
I mean, I think that like the free agency was definitely something that immediately got talked about when Bregman got injured, because I think everyone kind of said like, oh, if this is a major injury, if he is going to be out for months, then we're talking about, maybe him not opting out if he doesn't have, if he can't prove that he's healthy. So I think there's a chance he comes back, tries to prove that he's healthy at the end of the season so that he can potentially opt out. But I think maybe the silver lining with all of this is this might end up being the reason we have a second year of Alex Bregman, at least in the same contract.
I think that other teams will view him as injury prone now, since this is the same injury as 4 years ago. And really, that's the furthest thing from the truth. Alex Bregman has been pretty healthy for the majority of his career, but a repeat injury. Okay, so am I going to give Alex Bregman a 6-year contract, and in 3 years, I'm going to get him at age whatever he is, but 3 years from now, on more wear and tear on that leg, and the quad's going to go again? I think you'll see teams shy away from it.
Yeah.
And I don't think his market will be nearly as big as it was. Well, I mean, it wasn't big this year, but I don't think that it'll be nearly as big as what him and Scott Boras are hoping it would be.
Yeah, I wonder if it just all comes down to like if he can finish out the year healthy, because I think that that could be a reason that he opts out. I'm not saying that if he opts out, he's going to get what he wants in the open market, but I think it's tempting enough that maybe he'll try. But if he ends the season still being injured or just playing a week or two and not showing any type of like shadow of what he has been for the Red Sox so far, then I think that maybe he errs on the side of caution. Maybe he errs on the side of that he seems to really like the Red Sox name, at least being associated with the Red Sox, and decides to stay.
I think those Boras comments on 310 to left were posturing. I think that Bregman wants to end his career in Boston. That he's never come out and said it, but that's been kind of the implication ever since he signed. And so I think that was a power play to try to get the Red Sox to pony up for a long-term, quote-unquote deal. 5 years, no opt-outs, whatever. Would you go 5-6 years, 130, 140 million for him? Probably.
Will Bregman be here longer than hhis favorite manager?
That's the bigger question.
That is a good question. We're probably going to get there eventually anyways with talking about Crochet later in the episode, but I think that there's a lot of reasons that people are starting to be a little bit more skeptical of Alex Cora. Crochet was in the midst of an excellent start when the bullpen had been completely overtaxed the couple of days before, and they yanked Crochet out, after.
It was pre-planned.
It was pre-planned.
It was pre-planned.
It was pre-planned, but never talked about with Crochet. And you could see, during him getting
He was
yanked and
furious.
after the game, yeah, he was pissed. You know, and I think that this kind of highlights another, you know, same thing with the Raffy Devers situation, this kind of like disconnect between the manager and the players and communicating, you know, these plans to the players. And I think that there's like, you know, I think that a lot of people are giving Alex Cora the benefit of the doubt right now, saying that maybe this is more of a Chaim Bloom thing, but I sort of wonder where John Henry kind of is going to, you know, where he's going to go with this, because if you're talking about firing another Pobo, it's like, how many Pobos you're going to go through while keeping the same manager? Like at some point,
I don't think that they're worried about firing Breslow, because I believe that Alex Cora is the next man in that position.
I think he would have to, you know, last the entire season, and like
I think he will
end it in like in a positive light, like, you know, being seen positively.
Cora doesn't have anything to lose at the end of the day. That's my big thing with him. He can do whatever. He can make the dumbest decisions and he won't be held accountable.
No, the front office outside of Breslow, I think, loves Alex Cora. He is John Henry's guy. I don't know if it's ever been confirmed, but it came out multiple times when he was brought back that Chaim Bloom was effectively told, you will hire Alex Cora. And I think that is where that relationship between him and Chaim really soured. And from Chaim's end, and then when Chaim never came out and spoke out against Cora, but as good as Alex Cora is at making passive-aggressive comments about things, so was Chaim Bloom. And so Bloom would say things that directly contradicted what Cora had said the night before. And I think that made Cora mad. And it really just kind of drove a wedge between them. And so I talked about this, I think 2 or 3 episodes ago, when kind of all of the Devers stuff was going on and the communication issues. So I'll pose the question to you guys as a legitimate question now. Do you think that Alex Cora is purposefully or intentionally undercutting Craig Breslow?
I mean, I don't
loaded.
have. Yeah, it's loaded, and like I don't like Breslow just hasn't been there long enough for me to think that like it's like soured to that point, because like
I think that relationship's dead.
But like, why? Like, what has happened that has made it dead? Like
it came out that
went out
Breslow was the one who didn't want Bregman,
but they got Bregman in the end. So
they
it's
did.
like,
but I think that Cora doesn't believe that Bregman is that Breslow is a smart enough on the field baseball guy. I think that Cora thinks he's smarter than Breslow. And I think that Cora thinks he can do Breslow's job better because Cora connects with players. Whereas, and they've talked about this on Section 10, if you've watched the documentary, every time Breslow talks to the players, it feels forced. And I think that's just because of Breslow's intelligence. He's incredibly smart. And I know that was part of the issue, I think, in his interview with the Cubs, where they were like, hey, or maybe it was with the Red Sox. They're like, hey, like, you killed this, but we didn't understand a word that you said. Like, you've got to dumb it down. You've got to make it more approachable. And I think that because of his intelligence, he struggles to connect with John Q baseball player. Whereas, as we've talked about before, Cora is the player's manager. He's going to ride for his guys. He's going to be the shield for his guys. And I think that Cora believes, and I could be wrong, I don't know him obviously, but just from the way that he acts, like, I think Cora thinks that he would be a better GM because he feels like he can get John Henry to do what he wants him to do. As the manager, you don't have that power. Nobody has had that ability since Dave Dombrowski left. You know, Dombrowski would go to John Henry and be like, hey, we need such and such, and here's how much we're going to pay him. And Henry was like, cool, okay, do whatever you need to do. I think that Cora thinks that he would have that same pool, whereas Breslow obviously doesn't. So I don't know. I think Cora's ultimate goal is to be the next GM or Pobo of the Red Sox, and if that means that Breslow communicates these things to Cora, and maybe Cora doesn't communicate them as well as they should be to the players, then, well, hey, that's what he said to do, man. I'm just I got to do what they tell me to do.
I could see it. I don't even know how much Breslow wanted to do this offseason that like didn't get done. Like I could see maybe he would want to sign a starting pitcher instead of signing Alex Bregman or something.
Wasn't the plan to bring in Fried and trade for Crochet? That was like the plan A, was to get both of them. And then when Fried signed with the Yankees because they were willing to go a year longer, the hard pivot to Crochet, happened. And
like less than 24 hours later, basically.
Yeah, we brought in Walker Buehler and Patrick Sandoval.
Yeah, which I mean, like,
I like Buehler. I think Buehler's de facto number 2.
Yeah, I mean, we are definitely going to talk a lot about pitching, I am assuming, at some point, because it's been rough. But yeah, I think that there's probably a good chance that Breslow wishes he did more on the pitching side, and I'm sure whether Cora wants to admit it or not, he probably wishes we did a little bit more on the pitching side as well. So I mean, I don't know. Do I think that Cora's intentionally undercutting Breslow? I think I would need to see
shocked if it's happening.
I wouldn't either, but I think I need to see a little bit more evidence before I'm like,
that.
Oh yeah, that's definitely what's happening.
That's Maddie? Definitely a theory. Cora's kind of manipulative.
Yeah.
I think but he's kind of like a wolf in sheep's clothing, where he presents himself as this, sometimes laid back, personable dude, but then he's secretly, scheming behind, the curtain and whatnot. And sometimes, well, I mean, we were all thinking about it. And what was I? Oh, and his current position seems like a stepping stone for a front office role. That's pretty obvious there. And
he's come out and said that that's his goal.
Good for him, but I mean, kind of focus on doing your current job well before you get ahead of yourself.
I think the thing is I think the timeline works out too perfectly. Camila just graduated college, and if you're one of those people that were like, Cora should have been managing that game, not at his graduation, go away. Or not her graduation, go away. Like, it's okay. But
he's not allowed to have a life.
Right. He's got 2 young twins who are in like kindergarten or first grade. That I think that his goal is to stay in the Boston area, which is why I think he signed that contract extension right after the All-Star break, while the Red Sox were getting throttled by the Colorado Rockies last year. And I think that moving to the front office within the next couple of years guarantees that happens, and that he can, not that he hasn't put down roots, but that he can put down roots in Boston, and that he knows that's where his family is going to be. He's not going to have to travel 162 games a year. He'll be at all the home games, but so take half of that out, but he's not going to have to fly across the country to California twice, or fly to Seattle and then back home and then out to California and then to Texas. And I just think, Maddie, I think you're 100% correct. He's treating this managerial spot as a stepping stone to the front office. And I think that he's probably been all but guaranteed that he's the next Pobo. And so he's just kind of playing with house money. And I think that's why when some of these decisions happen, it almost looks like Cora doesn't care. And I don't think that he doesn't care, but I think he's just like, yeah, we'll try this today. Let's see what happens.
He knows he can toe the line, and he's not putting the best lineup for the team out every day. There's no way David Hamilton should be getting regular playing time. I know you guys
has turned it around. He's doing better.
No.
Would you rather have David Hamilton at second or Trevor Story?
Yeah, but
Join
they're not a serious team. They're not a serious team if David Hamilton is being constantly put in the lineup.
They're not a serious team until Roman Anthony is on the roster.
Yeah, with that, I feel like fans are getting more aggravated than him. There was just an article in the Globe where Roman said he was like, you know what? I'm just going to keep focusing on improving my game in AAA, and when I'm called up,
he improved
it
to hit 116-mile-an-hour homer today. Like, what are we doing here? If we're mired in 500 baseball, make it fun.
Yeah, but the issue is, like, I think the issue is what it's always been, which is, where do you play him? Who do you get rid of in order to play him? I know.
I'm so glad you asked, Adam.
Yes.
Here we go.
Vladimir Guerrero Jr. makes the perfect sense. No. I think I would love to know how many players would you have to trade to get Vladimir Guerrero Jr. at this point?
Well, it starts with Jarren Duran. If you remember, I floated Duran and Casas for Vladdy at the beginning of the season, and I was told that take was crazy. And now look at us.
That take is still crazy
in Toronto.
But then we also would have been talking about, when is Toronto going to call up Roman Anthony too at that point? Because I don't think it was going to happen for Duran and Casas.
And David.
Yeah, of course, our favorite trade piece. Man, if that guy never makes the majors, I'm gonna feel so bad. He's the only minor league pitchers I know now. At this point. Everyone else has been called up. It's just him. But I mean, I don't think Duran is the guy that they're going to. I don't think they are going to ship him off this early in the season and be like, well, this is just so we can bring up Roman Anthony. We are shipping him off, because I think that's a little bit more of a fan mutiny kind of thing.
Is Jarren Duran playing for the Boston Red Sox in 3 years?
I mean, at this point, I question who will be playing for the Boston Red Sox in 3 years besides Rafi Devers, because I don't think we can trade his contract if he's going to be a DH only. But otherwise, I think everybody's pretty movable, except maybe Crochet too. We're going to definitely keep him. But
yeah,
I think if this season, if we ended under 500, if we ended near last place, I think there's going to be a lot more trades than there were this year. I don't think you can claim that it's like, these young guys are our future. There's no way we have to hold on to all three of them forever kind of thing. I think that there's a chance one of them gets moved.
If Jarren Duran is not in the plans, now he had 3 years of control left. They gave him a 2-year extension. And I've pounded this drum since it happened. That told me exactly what the team thinks of him. Cora can go out and say he's our leader, he's my guy. The team goes as Duran goes, all he wants to. The front office does not believe that Jarren Duran is a building block piece. You wouldn't give somebody with 3 years of arbitration control a 2-year extension. The Padres came out this week and said, hey, we need a left fielder. And Duran's offense has turned around. His defense has gotten better over the past month. There is reason to believe that all-star Duran is on his way back. So if you are mired in 500 baseball, you're going into a rebuilding year no matter what, or a development year, whatever you want to call it. You've got Campbell up, you've got Mayer up, you've got Narvaez. You will at some point have Roman Anthony up. You're going to have 4 kids on your starting roster. Trade him, because the value is never going to be higher.
And so you trade him straight up one-on-one for Bogarts? Is that
absolutely? That's a veteran force up the middle who at least hits his weight.
That gets Raffy right back on track to playing defense.
I actually just bought tickets to go see the Padres when they come to St. Louis in July, solely to go see Bogey.
Not Nick Pivetta.
I kind of hope he pitches, but it's mostly for Bogey. Yeah,
he'll scream like five times coming off the mound.
Pivetta pitched in St. Louis last year when I was there, and so I've seen Pivetta pitch once, and he's crazy in person too. But
yeah,
I'm serious. Like, the value's never going to be higher, and outside of Roman Anthony and Marcelo Mayer, you're not going to get any kind of a return for anybody else that you'll get for Jarren Duran right now. Will it be an issue in the clubhouse? Probably. If you're in a rebuilding year, does that matter as much? No. Will people get over it? Yes. I think that the Red Sox have told you what they think about him. I really do. Ever since that arbitration deal happened, that's like, and I was on the trade Duran train at the end of the season because I didn't think that we would see last year's Jarren Duran ever again. And so you strike while the iron's hot in that situation. But I think that it makes way too much sense.
If Bregman's out till the beginning of August, there's no leadership in that clubhouse. And the only leadership right now is from a bench player, aka Rob Ruffsnyder. So
I just said the team sucked today.
Yeah, which as you know what, he was speaking facts, and he's not wrong. No. And I'm glad a player said it instead of Cora just, just saying everything's okay. But I think that would kill
become like. Yeah, I think that if Duran wasn't the breakout star of the Netflix documentary that came out before the season, then you would maybe have like a little bit better leg to stand on to trade him.
I don't think the front office cares.
I think they have to. They're the ones who let Netflix do it.
They're so out of touch with what the fan base actually wants. John Henry does not care at this point. He's on a boat, or he's on a bus in Liverpool celebrating.
There was just a big issue there with some dude ran into a crowd partying, so his hands are tied up right now, and I don't think he really cares about the Red Sox at the moment. So that's also something to consider with speculating about Cora.
Aren't they under some investigation because they're going so far over whatever the threshold is for a player? Like, they're setting records with how much they're going to pay somebody over there now. It's I don't follow soccer at all.
Football one.
Yes.
Just
I don't. There's something else going on where they're throwing unheard of money at somebody, and there's some tampering accusations or something happening there.
I feel like Maddie's on it, so let's.
Yeah.
I don't follow the Premier League, to be quite honest. So I wouldn't know.
I'm a Chelsea fan, so I wouldn't know.
They are my team technically. Kudos there, Adam.
Thank you. I try. But
it is Liverpool, right?
Yeah, it is Liverpool.
Yeah, I mean, I think that John Henry often doesn't care about the Red Sox, and I think that up until this offseason, I think most people would have agreed that he didn't care about the Red Sox. The trade for Crochet and signing Bregman maybe kind of started to unravel that narrative a little bit, but I don't know. It's, I think there's still a chance that he is celebrating enough of Liverpool's victory that he will completely forget that there's any chance of trading a player like Duran or firing Alex Cora or caring anything about Alex Cora or caring anything about Craig Breslow for that matter. So there's a good chance that he's just going to be in England for a month or two, enjoying his trophy.
Another championship.
But I mean, as far as Duran trade goes, I like Alex, if you really yes, I think that does say a lot, giving him only the 2-year extension. But do you really think that this year during the season is when they are going to trade Jarren Duran? Or are you just saying that you think they should?
So yes, I think they should. Do I think they'll do it during the year? Things are going to have to go horribly, horribly wrong between now and the trade deadline. If it's not even possible to sniff the third wild card spot, yes, I think he's gone. I think that trade happens in the offseason, provided that Duran continues the upward trajectory that he's currently on. And I think that would be the sole motivating factor to move him at the deadline, solely because you're not sure if that will continue. You know, there was the foot issue or the toe issue 2 years ago that he had to have surgery on late in the season. If that happens, done. He's not being traded. But if he continues on this and the team is just floundering, it won't shock me if, he's moved during the season. A week ago, 2 weeks ago, I would have told you, no, there's no chance they move him during the season. But if it is going to be let the kids play, which I think that if we're going to play 500 ball, that's what it should be. Let them get their reps at the majors. Let them go through what Campbell's going through right now. Don't send them down. Let them figure it out at the majors. Let them learn how to be major league players. I don't think that there's room for Jarren Duran on that roster. Like you said, Devers is untradeable because of the contract.
Look, there's another thing that you've floated before, which I think is much more likely to happen mid-season, and that is DFAing Trevor Story.
I think that should happen tomorrow.
I know you do, but I don't think that the Red Sox are ready to do that. But I think that there's rather than trade Jarren Duran, I think there's a more likely chance that they DFA Trevor Story and move Rafaela into the infield for that kind of experiment again, and then call up Anthony so that he's an outfielder.
I don't think there's a chance they move Rafaela, and I think that's Cora talking.
Well, I don't think they're moving to third base, but if there's
no, I don't even think it's short. I mean, if you're going to DFA Trevor Story, you're going to put Marcelo Mayer at short.
Right.
And you're going to make it work with Nick Sogard at third.
Sogard's been great so far, honestly.
Yeah,
I'm a Sogard believer. And maybe I'll change that to my name next episode. But he's been impressive. And the first base WAR for the team has slowly crept up since Toro and Sogard have been playing well in the past week.
Is Romy Gonzalez dead? Like, what is happening?
I feel like I haven't heard anything about his rehab since like 2 weeks ago. Like when
the last thing last recorded,
we
remember is
talked about it, and then that was it.
It's not going as well as hoped.
Okay. See, I don't even remember that update. I just remember an update of being like, they expect him hopefully to be back like within a couple of weeks, and then it's just like
he was supposed to be back last Sunday.
Yeah, and then there's been no update since. They're just like, we are happy with our
rehab assignment,
with our first base mix, at least right now.
Chris Smith of Mass Live reports that Romy Gonzalez experienced a setback last week that delayed his rehab, but manager Alex Cora said on Sunday, and that would have been yesterday because this is the 26th, the infielder is feeling better and is awaiting word from the medical team to determine his next step. So he is expected to begin a rehab assignment shortly.
Yeah, I mean, there's like, it's a toss-up as to who you send down at that point when Romy's ready to come back, because
I honestly think it's Toro. I think that Sogard has the higher ceiling than Toro.
And he's younger, right? I'm pretty sure that he's younger.
Yeah, Toro's a journeyman.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Toro's older.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, Toro's like 30 or something, I'm pretty sure. like older, like still like significantly younger than me, but like yeah, definitely older.
Abraham Toro, so old, he's 30.
What?
Exactly.
No, shoot. Toro's 28 and Sogard is 27.
Really?
Yeah.
See, so it's pretty close.
Maybe
Toro's
we
just
can
lived
call
a
him
journeyman
old.
life, so he looks a little older.
It's the beard.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I have one.
Exactly. I look like I'm 15 if I don't have
I was
this.
about to say, like, we're like 12, 13-year-old gone. Like, what's that chubby kid doing at the high school?
Yeah, so I was surprised. That means that they're both like Jaron Duran's age too. So that's pretty funny that they're like.
Isn't Jaron Duran 28?
Yeah.
So that's actually kind of funny that we're like Toro,
they're old.
journeyman, so old. Yeah, but
Toro's been with like 4 organizations, hasn't he?
Yeah,
I feel like
he was with
Taro's
the
been
A's last year.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I think that you're probably right that Sogard's probably the guy that stays up, because I think Sogard is still somewhat looked at as like a prospect or as a young player. That's like the perception of him, at least. I know that's not the reality, as we just found out, but I think that they think that there's a room to grow still for him. When I think Toro, they kind of think that he is who he is.
What you see is what you get.
Yeah, but like what you see is what you get, and what you get isn't bad. Like,
no, I think Toro's got more power, obviously.
So yeah, still hasn't hit his first home run yet, right?
Yeah.
Poor guy.
And Toro's got 3 homers and 3 RBIs. He's the 325 Tyler O'Neill, nothing but solo shots.
I was going to say that is probably like indicative of the Red Sox offense as a whole over the past like 2 weeks. I mean, we talk about us having like a little bit of like a curse, or we yell at a player and all of a sudden they turn it around, or we talk good about a player and all of a sudden they slump. But I wrote that article about the Red Sox leading the league in 3-run homers and what it could possibly mean, and they've hit like 1 since then. I'm pretty sure. They have completely lost the lead. I'm pretty sure now the Dodgers have tied them for 3-run homers. So like it has been the offense, I mean, we have it up there as, infielder slumping. Just Trevor Story is just a black hole right now. And you saw him the other day get pinch hit for in a big spot, and it's
I'm
just
glad you brought that up.
Yeah, because that's when you want your veteran, leader type guys in there, guys who have been there before. And instead it was like, okay, let's get you out of there before you embarrass yourself. I
texted my buddy because I was at a pitching change. And so like you see him like turn around and go back down the steps. And I texted my buddy, I said, I think Story's getting pinch hit for. And he was like, no, I don't think so. And I was like, no, like he was taking his helmet off when the camera cut away. And like, if you're going down to like check out notes on a pitcher, you don't take your helmet off.
Yeah.
And it came back and Willier was out there. And I was like, okay. And to me, that is the beginning of Cora, the front office, however you want to say it, is the beginning of the Boston Red Sox telling Trevor Story, like, hey, man, I think it's time for you to reconsider what's going on here. Now I think it's very telling that Cora came out and said, and I think this is a front office thing, that Cora came out and said, I'm going to give him a couple of days, and a couple of days turned into just Sunday, and he was back in the lineup today, because he did specifically mention when he said it on Sunday, he said, I'm going to give him today and tomorrow, and Story's back out there today. So I think that's a John Henry thing, like, or maybe not John specifically, but somebody in FSG, like, hey, we just gave him a lot of money a few years ago. He needs to be on the field right now. I think that, and this is where I love Alex Cora, and I hate, because I wrote the give Cora the year to figure it out, or just to, because there's nobody in-house that I think would take over and do a good job. Although Ramon Vasquez has proven in a couple games that he's pretty solid at managing. But I think that if Cora could make the call, I don't think we would see Trevor Story out there probably once a week.
Yeah, I mean, there's Trevor Story, I know in the offseason he did a lot to have young guys down to Texas.
The Story camp, yes.
To kind of
second or third year he's done that. Second year, I think.
Yeah, but it felt like it was promoted really hard. Social, like the Red Sox social media made a big deal out of it, really tried to say this is like a veteran leader taking all these young guys under their wing, really making it seem like, this year Story's going to be healthy and we are going to see him, like being a team leader kind of thing. And I think that was a storyline they really wanted to go with. Oh, God, when your name is Story and there's stories about you, it really just sucks, like having to talk. But
yeah, like my face when I called it the Story article, and he goes, "No, it's the Story."
But I think that's something that they really were pushing for and really wanted, and it's not coming together right now. Story had a hot little streak there for a while, and then it is just cratered in like a big way. I think the statistic that I heard today was that he's 15 for his last 115 or something. Like it's like it is awful.
Is this Story? Can he turn it around?
I don't think so. I think he is a guy that has dramatic swings of hot to cold. So do I think in the end, if he stays healthy enough, this will all balance out to somewhere in the 270 kind of average? I think it probably will. I think he'll come back.
You think Trevor Story's going to hit 270 by the end of the year?
If he gets regular playing time and doesn't get injured, I think yes, somewhere right around there.
I think 215's pushing it.
When he gets hot, he gets really hot. And it's, and it's like,
but when he gets cold, he goes 15 for 115.
Yeah, I know. It's bad. But that's what I'm saying. I think this is, this has the potential to be the entire cold streak of the season. Like this is, when he pulls out of this, maybe there's not another one later down the line. But
I think the if is doing a lot of work in that sentence, Adam.
I'm just talking. There is like a regression to the mean kind of thing that has to happen here.
For sure.
He keeps getting the leeway. But right now, when the Red Sox don't have a lot of infield options, so much so that they did have to call up Marcelo Mayer, which I don't think they really, really wanted to do. I think that's sort of I think that there's a chance that we get a decent amount of Trevor Story still going out there for a while. Because I think someone has to return before we even consider sitting him for long periods of time.
I hope Trevor Story turns it around, but I don't see him doing that. He has the highest strikeout rate in the league for shortstops. That's higher than Ellie De La Cruz, and which is saying something.
Yeah, at least Ellie's fun to watch.
Yeah, exactly. And he can get away with dabbing after a home run. I don't think Trevor Story could pull that off.
I'm not sure Trevor Story knows what that is.
I think if Trevor Story hit a home run tomorrow and dabbed as he crossed home plate, it would make me like him infinitely more.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, it shows some personality.
Yeah, I think, and I wrote about this a little bit. Maybe I just said it in the Slack channel. I think that the shoulder injury effectively ended Trevor Story's career. He's hesitant to make any kind of diving plays anymore. There was a ball today that was not a screamer up the middle, and he was within range, in my opinion. I haven't looked at Savant on the catch. I don't know if they even do catch probabilities for ground balls for infielders. But it wouldn't make sense, I don't think, but I would say that it was at least a 90% catch probability if he had made a play on it and he took 2 steps to his left and watched it roll through. And I think that you can sum up most of what's wrong with the Boston Red Sox with watching Trevor Story. And I talked about this on my personal social medias. I was so excited when they brought him in. Like, deemed it the best infield in baseball because he was going to be at second. Bogey was playing short. We had Devers at third. It was just going to be phenomenal. And a buddy of mine commented and said it's not even the best infield on a team that has Sox in the name because he's a White Sox fan. And now that's hilarious.
Yeah. How wrong he was.
But I legitimately feel bad for him because I love Trevor Story. I loved watching him when he was in Colorado. I didn't believe that he was a victim of the Colorado batting average and power and all that. I thought that he could do well outside of Colorado, and I don't think there's anything left in the tank. I really don't. And I said this in the Slack. I know, like, he's going to be a phenomenal coach one day. I think that he has a great baseball mind, but the minute I saw him in Marcelo's ear after that first strikeout, I wanted to throw my phone through my TV. That's the last person I want talking to Marcelo Mayer right now.
Okay. Let me just give you a couple of. So right now, Story is hitting 222, right? He has 6 home runs, so that's the 4th most on the Red Sox.
Okay.
He is tied for 2nd most steals on the Red Sox with David Hamilton. He is, he's been really bad for 115 at bats, and he's still, like, statistically, he still looks like a decent player on the Red Sox, which, I mean,
isn't that a Red Sox problem?
That is definitely a Red Sox problem, but also it's sort of like this guy, when he was hot towards the beginning of the season, he was really hot. So I don't know, to call him washed because of, 4 weeks or 5 weeks of, improductivity, I don't think is a word. Like, I think that, that is maybe overstating it a little bit. Just my personal opinion, though.
I can respect that. I think he is, but
I do notice that. Okay, so we mentioned Marcelo Mayer getting the call up. What have we thought of Marcelo Mayer so far?
If you throw him nothing but outside sliders, he's going to strike out every single time he's at the plate.
I did notice that quite a bit his first game, but he's gotten a couple hits since then. He's got
a good swing. He doesn't look overwhelmed, which I think that was a worry for you to be considered part of the big 3 and the savior of the franchise, along with Christian, who is having his own issues that we'll talk about, and Roman. I thought that when he stood in the batter's box for that first at bat, he looked like he'd been there for a while. So there's something.
He basically,
yes.
The first, 4 pitches, I was like, wow, he's being selective. He's really taking his pitches, and
then watched that one right down the middle for the strikeout.
Yeah, and then he struck out, and I was like, or maybe he just forgot how to swing for a while. I don't know exactly what happened. So I mean, it's hard to tell, but I think that Lou Merlone kind of made the point that he has a California cool attitude, and so
his whole family does.
Yeah, so I think we've been seeing that at least a little, is that he doesn't look like he has a very he looks like he has a very slow heartbeat for these kind of moments.
The moment doesn't look too big for him.
And I think that that's good, but I think that you're right. There are definitely some holes in his swing that he probably needs to address. And I don't know if, he's savior level yet.
I think there's enough of a sample from AAA And even just so his first contact was a fielder's choice in that first game. He ripped a double the next day. We haven't seen really any power out of him yet. He led the Woo Sox in home runs. I think he had like 46 RBIs when he was called up, and like that's insane. I think that's so many RBIs for the end of May. But Chad Tracy said that like he lives for the big moments. And I think that is evident by his RBI total and everything. And that kept getting brought up during the broadcast, especially when he was up with the man on and down by 2. And he lives for moments like this. It's like, well, it's his 4th at bat. Like,
yeah.
Like he very well may live for moments like this, but probably not today. And so I think he's going to be a good player. I think that he needs to play short instead of third, just because that's his natural position. And when he shifted over there for a few innings yesterday, he looked like it wasn't a big deal at all. And there were a couple wonky balls coming his way. And he had the misfire that did allow for the full inside the Parker, and I think that was just kind of him. I think that was the moment getting to him, and right then, because he has been a pretty sure-handed defender for his entire career coming through the minors, so that doesn't worry me. I do. I think he should stay up. I don't think there's any reason to shuttle him between the Woo Sox and the Red Sox as long as Bregman's on the IL. And I think that when Bregman comes back, then you have to have a tough conversation with one Trevor Story. And I said this in the Slack, and I've said it to friends when we've talked about it. Story's ceiling is Marcelo's floor at this point. And if you're going to tell me that if they're going to be roughly the same player, if they're going to hit 225, give me the kid. Let Marcelo get the at-bats. Let him hit 225 this year. If this year is not playoffs or bust, which is kind of what we assumed it would be going into the season, but if it's not, if we're mired in 500 baseball, let Marcelo hit 225 because he's 22 and he can grow from that. We've seen what Trevor Story is going to be. Trevor Story will never be better than he is right now. Or this season. If we're talking 270, we're talking 270. Trevor Story will never hit again in 26. He won't hit 270. But if Marcelo hits 225 this year, it's not out of the possibility that Marcelo's hitting 280, 290 pushing next year once he has major league pitching figured out. And if that means that we're mired in a rebuild year, I'm okay with that. But get Anthony up here too.
So I guess this kind of goes back to the point of you have an outfield right now, and we agree that Duran's probably not going anywhere. Abreu, I don't think you can send him anywhere.
I think you should extend Abreu.
Oh, I think that's probably about right. At this point,
quit platooning him. If we're in this situation, quit platooning him. Let him figure out left-handed pitching. And I love Rob Refsnyder. I think Refsnyder has a spot on this team. But if we're going to suck, to use Refsnyder's own words, let Wilyer figure out left-handed pitching. Let him get every day at bats. Quit platooning him. If you need Refsnyder to come in a late game situation, that's fine. And then I think realistically, Maddie, go ahead, because I think we might be on the same page.
I wonder if they're still platooning him to try to build up his trade value.
Man, that's such a tough sell for me. Wait, who? Wilyer's trade value?
Willie, because hide that he can't hit left-handed pitching by just platooning him.
Doesn't that tell everybody he can't hit left-handed pitching, though?
I mean, Oh, it props up his stats.
I think that there is more of a chance of trading Ref Snyder because he's an older guy, again, younger than me, but still an older guy, and he
he gets to the stadium in a wheelchair.
he's clearly like a somewhat of a leader on the team, but he's probably the most expendable outfielder we have right now. I mean, I know that I think a couple of us probably think that Ceddanne Rafaela is.
That's where I was going to go. Yeah.
Also fairly expendable because he really is sort of rivaling Trevor Story for the strikeout percentages, but we just gave him that big extension, so I sort of doubt that that's gonna happen this season.
I wouldn't put it past them. There are a bunch of teams that need center fielders. I know we've talked about the Phillies before. The Royals, the Mets.
The Royals need outfielders, period.
Well, CD for Rutschman, who says no.
That's actually a very interesting trade. So during the whole Orioles series, I kept thinking about what it would take to get Adley on the Red Sox.
Because he's just,
and
I don't think it's so well. Like we got to bring that offensive force to Boston.
So I am very much of the mindset that I think I'm a big change of scenery guy. And I think that there was so much like hype around Adley that when he got to the majors, they're just like, yeah, man, do whatever you want to do. Like, you're going to be the face of our franchise. And Adley's like, I'm 20. Like, I don't know how to handle this. And I think that if you get him with a coaching staff that's like, quit swinging the bat because that's his problem, is that
isn't that Rafaela's problem too? And
Rafaela swings and misses.
Isn't Fatsy? Is that how you pronounce his name?
It's Steve Fatsy. Yeah.
Fatsy. Okay. Because I didn't want to offend. I mean, with that. It could go wrong pretty quickly.
But I think that if you get Adley in a situation, because Adley's big issue is that, like, yeah, his average isn't great, but he's putting the bat on the ball, whereas Rafael is just swinging and missing at everything. I think that if you can fix his timing, then you're going to tap into what he used to be. And I'll write about this as we get closer to the trade deadline. My number one trade target opinion is Jordan Walker from the Cardinals. I think that Walker fixes the first base issue because he came up as a first base, third baseman throughout the system. And the hitting coaches in St. Louis absolutely broke him. And I think that if you get him away from St. Louis, he is an all-star caliber infielder. They've got him playing right field because he's got a cannon. Like, so I understand why he's in the field and he's not playing first for them. And you've got Nolan Arenado at third, so I understand that too. But if you get Jordan Walker on the Boston Red Sox, let him develop as a hitter, which is something that has been stunted for the last 2 years, man, I think that he is an all-star caliber player. And I think the Red Sox can pull that out of him. But I've already got the pieces of it put together. Just waiting for numbers as we get closer to the trade deadline. But I'm a firm believer in change of scenery, and I think that Adley getting out of Baltimore would be huge.
I also wonder how much of an appetite there is for Baltimore if they're going to trade Adley, to trade him inside the division. I bet it's pretty low. You don't want to take a guy who was a prospect and potential face of the franchise and ship him off to,
for sure,
who I think is probably Baltimore's most hated rival. I mean, it's either us or the Yankees, I'm pretty sure. So,
I think that at least the rivalry between the Sox and O's is pretty respectful.
Mm-hmm.
I have Sox friends that have gone to Camden Yards for Sox games, and they're like, hey, like, we had fun. Like, it wasn't that big of a deal. And I think when Yankees fans show up, like, people try to fight. Like,
well, there was a big fight last year. The bench is cleared.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yep. Going off of what Alex said, I see a lot of Orioles Red Sox games because I'm like about an hour away from Baltimore, and their fans are really nice to me when I'm decked out in Red Sox gear. The stadium staff is great too, and it's respectable and not like egregious like the Yankees where it ends in physical fights between the teams.
Yeah, I just, I think that we touched on this 2 weeks ago when we first started talking about the Casas injury, and it's something that obviously is now gaining a lot more steam, which is, a potential trade for Rhys Hoskins. And I think that, you want to talk about Cedon for Rhys Hoskins, it wouldn't be like the first time that we've traded a defense first outfielder to for a slugger, a Brewers slugger before. It's, happened. So I think that is maybe something I would rather see
David
than
Hamilton.
enrichment. Yeah, exactly.
And Alex Benellis.
But I wonder if that's like if that is maybe more likely and something that kind of would solve an issue that we're
but I think the Brewers
right
are in the exact same situation we are. And whereas like we talk about like I'm not saying that Rhys Hoskins is their Duran, but like if trading Duran is this crazy idea because of who he is in the clubhouse, I think that is the same mentality of Rhys Hoskins there. But I also question that front office that was willing to trade Devin Williams for Nestor Cortez. Like, you can't tell me you couldn't have gotten a better deal for Devin Williams, who has been
I was going to say, who's been great so far. He's definitely my favorite Yankees player right now. So
yeah, but at the trade like when that trade happened, he was the best reliever in baseball.
Yeah.
And he obviously does not want to play for the Yankees.
I think that there's like a difference though between Duran, who came up with the Red Sox, and Hoskins, who is, is this his second year as a Brewer or first year?
Second year.
Yeah. So, when you've only been in a team for 2 years and you're not like a homegrown guy, I think there's a little bit of like a difference there. So I think that, is he like offensively maybe, as meaningful as Duran is to the Red Sox right now? Probably, but I don't know if,
I think that Hoskins is the perfect answer to the first base question.
Yeah.
And I think he settles the infield.
I think Lou Merloni even said today, like, maybe this is something where he can just come with us to Atlanta after the series kind of thing. Yeah.
So I have a theory about that.
Mm-hmm. About kidnapping?
Yeah. I think it's not that. No. Don't click that. But so I don't think there's any way that Dave O'Brien and Lou Merloni say things like that without some basis of knowledge. And I think that maybe they have not been instructed by the front office to be like, hey, float this idea and see what the reaction online is. But I think that is the sole purpose, is to gauge the fan response to, what if we traded for Rhys Hoskins? How would the fans react to that? And so when OB's like, I don't know anything, I'm just saying, like, Dave, I bet you know a little more than you're letting on.
It's actually not a terrible Dave O'Brien impression either. So.
You just have to be pretty low key and get more excited about opposing home runs than the team that pays you runs.
And make sure you say absolutely nothing.
Yeah. You just get fed stats. It's like, did you know David Hamilton, when he steals second, gets a stolen base? That's very John Madden of him.
like a northern fog leghorn kind of thing. Just very. Yeah, I think that I don't know if I completely agree with that. I think Merloni is like. I think he's like half the time he's sort of a loose cannon. Like I don't worry.
Dave's the one that brought it up, though. I think more about it with Dave than I do anyone else, because Dave is in the pocket of the front office. There's no way he still has a job if he's not.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that Dave has fed stuff like, hey, talk about what would happen if we traded for Rhys Hoskins. Bring up Rhys Hoskins trades. And then the social media team is sitting there like, okay, well, people are talking positively about this. Let's maybe put a little more stock into it. Because I think there is some attempt to try to rebuild that fan trust that the Red Sox have squandered away over the past 3 years, but I don't think it's from John Henry. I think it's probably from Theo. I think Theo's probably the only one in that front office that legitimately has his finger on the pulse of what Red Sox fans care about.
I mean, yeah, I wouldn't doubt that. So, I would.
Can you just make Theo the GM?
I think we've done that, haven't we?
Worked out pretty well.
I think if he wanted the job, he probably could have had it already. So I think that's more of a Theo thing.
What if he just walked into the office with a nameplate and was like, "Sorry, Craig," and just set it down on the desk, and that's how Craig found out he was fired?
Oh, no.
Hey, Craig is Pobo. He is not a GM. So I mean, he doesn't need to go if Theo just wants to be GM again. But I think that, like,
isn't that what they did to Charrington when Theo was hired? They're like, if you want to stick around, you can be an assistant, buddy. And he was like, no, thanks.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. I mean, I would love the Hoskins deal, but it's so early in the season. And yeah, the fact that like that Milwaukee and the Red Sox are not like, it's not like one is like definitely ascendant and the other one is like falling so fast. Like I don't know.
They're in the same boat.
Exactly. It's like they're sometimes they look good, sometimes they look terrible. They're right, floundering around 500 in a division.
Where I think they need help is at the shortstop position, and boy, do we have one.
And it's just like, and we're both in like winnable divisions, so I just think that it's like it's probably not going to happen. So I don't really give any credence to like they floated this idea, so maybe it's like the front office is like, well, if the fans love this, we'll definitely pounce on this, because I'm not sure.
Michael Chavis is playing for the Dodgers now.
Like actually playing? Anymore? No,
I think he's in their AAA program, I believe.
Okay, I knew this because for some reason, my fiance the other day just was like, we're watching the game, and she's like, whatever happened to Chavis? I was like, what? How? Why Chavis? Like, what has reminded you of this? And I was like, last time I heard he was playing for the Pirates, and she looked it up and she was like, no, he's actually in the Dodgers minor league system. I was like,
yeah, wow.
Dodgers
minor league system.
The Dodgers and Red Sox just love each other's players so much. I
wouldn't hate it.
Sort of insane.
I wouldn't hate it. He's going to give you the same amount of production that anyone else is going to give you right now. He's cool.
Yeah,
Ice Horse.
He's cool.
The Ice Horse. I love it.
He had a cool nickname, but other than
when that guy climbed the backside of the monster during the COVID season and yelled, "You ain't no Michael Jordan" at him, that was great.
That was cool. It's like going back to your ex, who you've moved on from like 5 years ago during the pandemic.
I don't know. Have we seen an updated picture? Does he still have that hair? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
He has long hair now.
Yeah, look at it. The Ice Horse has the mane. He's got moss, as Ed would say.
The mane. Okay. Well, if we get to make those kind of jokes, then okay, I'm in.
But Could Adley be converted to a first baseman?
I think so.
So that's something to consider. And
the Cardinals
Mike
just did
Elias,
it with whichever Contreras is playing for the Cardinals.
which one of them,
is it
Willie Contreras.
Wouldn't you just like rather put like Connor Wong at first base than if you're going to
because then
a catcher?
Connor Wong plays like a wet fart.
What? No.
Oh my God. I mean, we are like an hour and 15 minutes in. Maybe it's like
who's the the third string catcher on the team?
I mean, it was
Sable. No, a catcher. Yeah, if Wong moves to first,
I thought it was the still Romy. Catcher. Romy was the backup catcher. He was the third stringer.
When it was Narvaez and Sable, they said that Romy would have been third string.
When Wong broke his hand, they were like, if something happens to Narvaez, Romy's suiting up.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Oh God.
I don't think Romy has caught ever.
No, probably.
I think that's like in the NFL where like your quarterbacks are also your backup kickers just because they can probably do it.
Okay, do you guys watch hockey at all? Do you guys watch hockey or know anything about hockey? Okay, I don't watch hockey or really know anything, but there's like a concept in hockey where there's a like backup
reserve goalie,
a reserve goalie who is just like a fan in the stand. They're like designated before the game, and it is like, and it's if either team's like backup goalie, if they're down 2 goalies, like this is just like a former goalie who will go in and play for your team. It is like a really truly bizarre concept, but like I don't know why the MLB doesn't have that. Why there isn't like
do you know how
Jose Molina or something? Oh, okay. I thought like Jose Molina or like a Molina brother that's been out of the game for like 15 years would do it. I wasn't really thinking like a high school baseball coach would do it. But I mean, I guess if that's what you want to do.
I mean, I'm going to break Brock's record for slowest pitch in the history of baseball. I might cry if I have to like catch.
Yeah, I mean, if someone bounces one, but it's like a 105 mile an hour fastball. And I don't know, how good are you with the knee down? Is that something that you've practiced ever?
No, I was a traditional stance catcher.
Exactly. So
yeah,
I don't know. I don't think it's for you.
I don't think I have the knees for it anymore, but I'd volunteer.
Yeah, I guess that's sort of the issue. Is like you have to actually be able to get in the crouch. So.
Well, I'm just going to stand at the backstop and catch it when it comes back here.
I'm sure the umpire would love that.
Yeah.
No cover for him at all.
With the way they've been umping this season, it's deserved.
Yes, it has been talked about now quite a bit on the Red Sox broadcast about how bad the umpiring has been. And yeah, I have to agree. The whole like if someone's stealing a base, like we don't know how to call a strike is sort of very odd. Like you should still pay attention to the pitch at least before
because you're not the one calling people safe and out at the stolen base.
Yeah, it's like it is very strange. But
this isn't Little League where you've got 2 umps floating around the diamond.
I mean, okay, let's just get to Crochet and look away so we can talk about Buehler getting thrown out of that game. That was, I don't like, could you think of a better way to come back from the injured list than to like just the John Boy lip reading video for him getting thrown out was just so amazing. And I didn't know Lindor was standing on second base yelling, throw him out, like for the entire time until they actually threw him out. So like that was also like a joy to behold. But yeah, I just like really endeared himself to Red Sox fans, I think.
Yeah.
Like with the way that he did that. I mean, to the coaching staff, probably not, but
you can realistically point to that moment as the time that you knew the bullpen was falling apart for the next week.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
The bullpen was already overworked by then, and with him going, was it 3 1/3?
Yeah.
Then you knew there was no coming back from it. Which once again goes back to why didn't they call up fresh arms? Why is Guerrero already back in AAA? Well, why wasn't Criswell used when he was sitting on the bench when was it Whitlock got shelled? There's a lot of what ifs in this situation. I don't think it was Whitlock. I don't remember who it was. But going back to the ejection, one, if an ump walks in front of your catcher and onto the grass, you should be allowed to also step out of your position to talk to him. And I think that in those situations, like the players have to do post-game pressers and talk about it. If you toss somebody out of a game, you should also have to meet with the media and be like, well, you were the first one to step on the grass. Why did you do that? Like, you should have to answer those questions too.
I mean, I'm sure someone would ask, but I'm also pretty sure that umpires' answers would be as boring, if not more boring, than most MLB players' answers to questions.
Well, like Diaz was. It was he said thing. He left the mound to argue balls and strikes.
Right.
After the ump had left his position to get him to argue balls and strikes.
Exactly.
And then 2 games later, in that same ump crew, they stared down Brian Bayo and told him to quit shaking his head.
Yeah. It was I mean, any crew with Last Diaz, I think it's going to be a little bit confrontational, but like it was really like quite spectacular. And then
I see him or CD Buckner as part of the ump crew. I'm like, this series is going to be terrible.
But I mean, you saw the same thing happen. Is it today's game? It happened where Wong was catching and someone stole a base and Wong caught it and stood up like he was going to throw it, but then didn't.
Yeah.
And it was down the middle and it got called a ball. I mean, you know, like cooler heads prevailed. No one tried to argue it and get thrown out, but it was still like one of those situations where it's just sort of like, you know, if you guys don't want ABS, like you're not doing yourselves any favors
this whole season.
Yeah, this whole season, exactly. It has not been good. So
was it like the second or third week of the season? There was an ump that warned both teams that if you sarcastically tap your helmet after a call that he was going to auto toss you, and then he proceeded to miss like 27 calls in the game. Like it's ridiculous. I think the ABS system has to be here next year. If for no other reason than for that situation. And I think that if you get tossed because you're arguing that call and it's challenged and you're right, you're no longer tossed.
I don't think that part will happen, but I do think that like
unless you yell the F word a lot like Walker Buehler did. Now, he never said it until he knew he was getting run. Like the first thing he said was it was right down the middle. And that's when that's when I don't remember the guy's name, but that's when he stepped in front of home plate. And that's when Buehler was like, well, this is going south.
Yeah.
And that's when the cuss words started flying.
Did you see the article from Jason Stark and Ken Rosenthal about the players not knowing that the strike zone was made smaller this year?
Oh yeah, it changed like a little bit. No, I didn't know that.
Read it. Yeah.
But so I mean that's going on, and I mean this is a conspiracy theory. I think the umpires union struck a deal with whichever big software company would, you know, implement the ABS system to look or make a bunch of bad calls this year, so then they would be pushed out and then they would get a buyout from the big tech company.
Well, I think that the umpires, they've said, I think it was an ESPN poll of umpires that was like anonymous, but they said that they would rather have full ABS than the challenge system. And I think that's because umpires would rather not be like shown up by a computer and would rather have like just like the right calls made than have to be like, okay, I was wrong. Sorry about that kind of thing, So like, if they're like, well, what if we just made it so like it's obviously not that like one challenge or 3 challenges is going to do it. It's going to take a lot of challenges to get all of these calls right, kind of thing. Like, I don't know, maybe that's a thing, but I think MLB is probably closer to going to the challenge system than they are to going to like a straight ABS, like for the whole game kind of thing.
Yeah, I think the challenge system is next.
Yeah, it's definitely coming. I mean, MLB doesn't put into place things in the minor leagues that like never come to the majors. Like it's almost always just like let the younger guys get accustomed to it, and then like eventually like everyone has played with that rule basically, except for a couple like old stodgy pitchers that are going to be angry about it no matter what.
Max Scherzer.
I was thinking Scherzer or Chris Sale or somebody. Yeah, it's probably it's going to be pissed. Verlander. Yeah, someone's going to be mad about it. But I think that that's probably what's coming up next. Okay, hold on. Let's actually talk about the pitching staff though, because Crochet and Look Away was definitely some writer that penned that on Blue Sky, and I loved it so much that I've been saying it ever since. Crochet has been good. He did allow runs to the Brewers today, which Brewers have not been scoring runs, so that was a little bit of a surprise. But besides that,
the first hitter has been his Achilles heel all season. The first hitter of the game will take him deep, will hit a double, and then he gets super mad and strikes out 11.
Yeah, it has been sort of weird how that has happened. I will sometimes tune into the games a little late, but it almost always seems when Crochet's on the mound, I tune in, it's like 1-0, and I'm like, how the hell did this team score a run on him? Because he's just mowing people down. And so you saw it again today. And I mean, you said you think Buehler's probably the number 2 pitcher right now. He just came back from injury, so it's sort of hard to exactly say, but is there anyone else close at this point?
I would need to see Giolito not have alternating good and bad starts. Because I would be fine if Giolito's the number 2. But I need to see him have 2 or 3 good starts in a row before I would be comfortable with that.
It is insane how bad his bad starts are and like how good his good starts are too. It's not just like, he wins one and loses one. It's like a no hitter into the 5th in one, and then like allow 5 runs in 2 innings in the other. It's just like, it is such a wide swing, and it doesn't necessarily correlate with how good the team he's pitching against is either. So it has been a wild ride since he's come back.
Have they announced a starter for tomorrow's game yet?
Absolutely not.
I read somewhere that it might be Richard Fitz, which I think is wild. Who threw 3 innings in his first rehab start last week.
Well, I think that the other option that people were saying was that it might just be a bullpen game, especially because Crochet did go so deep today that the bullpen was actually not overtaxed for once. And so I think if you have Fitz come up and pitch, like maybe it's a little bit less than a bullpen game, but it still is quite a bit of a bullpen game. You're still probably talking about the bullpen having to cover 5 to 6 innings if Fitz comes up.
You're not going to get Whitlock tomorrow because he pitched 2 today. I was dealing with the smoker for Memorial Day today at the end of the game. So did Whitlock end up closing the game out? Who was the final pitcher?
You said the smoker, and for some reason I'm thinking like X-Files, like you're just talking like smoking man or something. I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I get what you're saying now, though.
Made some dynamite chicken wings. Yeah.
Yes, like a cooking machine. I get it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Did he close?
Was it Zach Kelly?
No, Whitlock pitched the last 1 1/3 innings to finish up the game.
Okay.
So no one else pitched. So that's what I'm saying. I think that there's a chance that
Kelly was just up at one point. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Kelly was up at one point.
I think they might just go complete bullpen tomorrow. Which
Criswell to open it? Like, is Criswell still with the team?
Wasn't he sent back down?
Yeah, I think he was just the 27th man for the.
I don't know who you would have open it. Like, I don't know who you could have go 3.
Well, maybe Kelly's still warm from warming up today, so just throw him out there.
I don't think he's ever gotten warm in his professional career.
Who's that other guy whose name I can never remember that has the most boring name possible?
Justin Wilson.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think I went to high school with 3 Justin Wilsons. I'm pretty sure.
And none of them were this pitcher.
None of them were him, turns out. But I mean, like,
I think I would rather have, and I almost keep calling him his nickname, and this is a family-friendly show, so it's very difficult for me to not do it. But I think that I would rather have Richard show up and throw 3 innings than have Zach Kelly or Justin Wilson open the game for 3 or 4.
Yeah, I mean, there needs to be a corresponding move, and that's the only reason I could think of that they wouldn't do something like that. Just I don't know, what they're thinking about as far as cycling guys up and down. But I don't think that there's any reason not to, because I mean, there's no one in the bullpen right now that you think of as being like a more than 1 inning guy except for Whitlock, and he pitched today. So
they've tried it with Hendricks, and that's been terrible.
And if Hendricks is another guy who I think, like, when we're talking about Alex Cora not doing a great job this season, Hendricks has had like some things to say about Alex Cora and how he's being used. Now, has Hendricks proven that he should be used in any other type of way than a low leverage situation?
Justice that those comments came out where he was like, "You just got to use me to get the best me," and then except pretend that was an Australian accent and not a Southern accent, and then he proceeds to just get absolutely shelled about 3 hours later.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't proven that he can do high leverage, or that he should be put into any type of situations where there's any leverage. But I mean, he still apparently feels like Alex Cora is not communicating with him very well. So I think that you have to add that to another kind of like, what is exactly going on.
I think your role is you're not a high leverage guy, so you're going to pitch somewhere between the 5th and 7th innings.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's his role. I think that he wants to be told that he's the 8th inning guy, or I don't think he's dumb enough to think that he should close over Chapman or even Slayton, who has looked better as of late. But I think that he wants to be told, like, you're our 8th inning guy. You're our guy that we need to make sure we bring in to make sure that everything stays the way it needs to stay. And then it's like, well, when you give up 5 runs, you're going to pitch in the 5th.
Yeah.
Okay. Following Hendricks' comments, I don't blame him for them, because there's no way the Red Sox offense shouldn't have gone scoreless against Dean Kramer.
For sure. For sure.
And that was the offense. The pitching was fine. They just didn't have any run support that game.
Which has sort of been like the story of the Red Sox the past like week and a half, has just been
like 3 years.
Yeah, it's
or
just
when the offense is hot, the pitching is terrible. Like they both can never be good at the same time.
Yeah.
So besides not knowing who's starting tomorrow, what about the rest of the starting pitchers? Are we I guess we're talking about, Giolito or Buehler kind of being the second pitcher, depending on which one of them is going steady and uninjured at one time. What are we thinking about Bayo?
I've said before, you'll be hard pressed to find a bigger Bayo fan than me. I love Brian Bayo. I believe in Brian Bayo. We've got 4 straight starts of less than 5 innings. He was at 85 pitches in the 4th on his last start.
Yeah.
He can get them 0-2, and then he walks them. He lets them come all the way back. And I don't know if it's a Brian Bayo issue as much as I think that it might be an Andrew Bailey issue. Bailey built up a ton of good juju with the Red Sox fans and everybody that first half of last season.
Yeah.
The way he worked, and we're not throwing fastballs unless you want to, and you need to bring that to me. And it worked for half a season. And then after the All-Star break, everybody but Bayo got shelled. Well, now Bayo's not throwing that fastball anymore. And Bayo's out pitch, his changeup, is completely dead. It's got no life to it at all. I think that if there are, to tie this back to an earlier conversation, if there are any changes in the coaching staff during this season, it will be Andrew Bailey. And I think that Craig Breslow thinks very highly of Andrew Bailey. They seem to be kind of attached at the hip because they're both former Sox relievers and they've been here and they know what it is. But I am starting to question if Andrew Bailey is the pitching guru that he was sold to us as.
I guess you have to see how the season's going at whatever particular time they decide to make the move, because I kind of agreed with Maddie's Pete Fatsy comment. He seems to be, for me at least, to be the guy who's most likely to get canned first, because basically everyone in the offense except for Devers is sort of floundering.
And I think Fatsy's on the hot seat too. I don't think that either our pitching coach and our hitting coach, I think that realistically both of them could be let go this season.
Well, can't John Henry meet with every slumping player on a road trip and fly out?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, the Bailey, I think he has been coming into a lot more criticism. You heard it, especially when Guerrero was on the mound, about Guerrero not using his fastball to get outs and how
or
he was
changeup.
going.
It's the same thing. It's the Bale thing all over again. That's the out
and
pitch.
so you kind of heard that a little bit, when he was called up, and it was surprising to me to hear it be said so out in the open.
I think that the question has to be answered: who is calling the pitches?
Right.
Walker Buehler calls his own pitches. That's obvious. If Narvaez is calling pitches by himself, then there's an issue with Carlos Narvaez. He's not got a high enough baseball IQ. He doesn't understand pitch mixes, which you would think if he's made it to the majors as a catcher, that's not the issue. I assume that it's Andrew Bailey calling the pitches from the dugout, relaying to Narvaez, who then relays to the pitcher. If that's the case, then Bailey's the problem. If Narvaez is calling his own pitchers, if he's calling his own pitches, though, there's a very different conversation that needs to be had, and then another catcher needs to be brought in. Because if Narvaez is the one who's getting away from your out pitch, one, as a pitcher, you need to be communicating that to your coach. And not just Bailey. You need to be going to AC and be like, hey, my changeup's my out pitch, and he's not calling it. And we saw that in the doc, where with Bayo specifically, where he said, he's calling fastball, 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 and they're hitting it. He's not calling anything else. And I assumed that he was talking about Wong because it was a very general he. And I think Bailey was out there during that conversation because it happened on the mound. And then everything breaks and he throws a sinker and it gets taken 450 feet. So who's calling these pitches? Who is the he in that situation? Was it Wong? This year, is it Narvaez? Is it Bailey? are all of our pitchers calling their pitches, and they're calling them they're calling them incorrectly. I don't think that's the case because I think Buehler is really the only one I ever see shake signs off. Crochet does occasionally, but I think that with Crochet, like my guess is that meeting is I'm attacking this hitter this way, I'm attacking this hitter this way, I'm attacking this hitter this way, and you just listen to what he says. But I mean, Buehler was actively shaking off Narvaez yesterday. If Bailey's the one calling the pitches, then yeah, he needs to go.
I think to your point there, maybe it was the Guerrero appearance. I think Wong was catching at that point because Narvaez had been pinch run for. So I'm pretty sure that at the time when I heard all the conversation about like the pitch calling mix and like why aren't they calling for more of his fastball or more of his changeup, it was sort of I had chalked it up to, well, maybe this is a Connor Wong problem. But, if the pitch mix conversation is also going through when Narvaez is catching, then yeah, maybe it is a Bailey issue. And I mean, that would be like quite the fall from grace because like you said, the beginning half of last year, basically everyone had anointed Andrew Bailey as like the new king of pitching. And that, this was something that maybe the rest of the league was going to start following was, this, weird pitch mix kind of thing. And yeah, it fell apart towards the end of the season. And I think a lot of people thought that had to do with either Wong's inability to, frame or, always get in front of the breaking balls, and the fact that we had young pitchers who were just kind of breaking down towards the end of their first, full season of pitching kind of thing. But
you had 3 guys make 30 starts that had never sniffed 30 starts. So there was reasons for it.
Yeah, but if it's happening this year and it is early in the season, then maybe it is just that, going this this off speed heavy is just not working, or it's breaking ball heavy, I should say, is not working. It was a fun parlor trick for half a season, but not something that's
if you've got a 4-pitch mix and you know that you only have to look for 2 pitches,
right?
Yeah, of course they're going to tee off on the slider.
Yep. With Andrew Bailey, their homegrown pitchers just haven't been performing well.
Crochet's numbers are down from his White Sox numbers last year.
Yeah, I like Houck, Bayo. Whitlock was tipping his pitches for like well into May before somebody on Twitter pointed it out. That screams pitching issues. Starting with Bailey.
I will say with that, it was probably noticed, and you don't want to publicize that you've noticed it because then you get other teams that are like, okay, well now we're looking for this. Whereas if it's tipping and not every team is onto it, then he's still got a chance. And so my guess is that it was at least noticed. But if it was noticed it was a Twitter user, because it was his glove positioning and his windup, and they showed it to some retired MLB players, like, oh, that's super early enough in the windup that I can track that. Like, I can tell that his glove is at his chest instead of at his head. And if I know it's at his chest and know the slider's coming, I can just sit on it and wait for it. But yeah, why did it take a Twitter user for then us to notice a change in his glove positioning, which there was? I've watched for it today. I've watched for it in his appearances since that happened. And his glove is in the same spot every time now. So if it really did take a Twitter user to point it out, that's a big problem.
Well, and that would be kind of ridiculous too, because that was one of the things that people said about Alex Cora, like why he was supposed to be such a great manager, is because like as a player, that was like his MO was like, he might not be playing every game, but every game he was paying attention, and every game he would be like, oh, on this count, this guy throws this pitch, it seems like, or when he holds his glove there, this is what he's throwing. That was supposed to be, he was like he would catch guys doing that all the time. And so you would think that he'd be good enough to notice it on his own players. Maybe maybe you're right. Maybe it was something they were working with Whitlock on to hopefully get him to change it. But the fact that since the Twitter user called him out, he has changed it. And, it seems a little bit suspicious.
Yeah.
Okay, we've been going for an hour and 45. We should probably wrap it up, but I feel like it's been sort of a downer, especially here towards the end. Is there some positive things we can say that we're looking forward to the next week that maybe can?
I've got some really good chicken wings that I can eat tomorrow for lunch.
Yeah, that's great. It was not 105 today here in Dallas.
Oh, wow.
It was raining and in the 70s, so that was actually quite pleasant for me. So hopefully that continues. But Red Sox wise, I think that I've seen, I think that we talked about Marcelo Myers, but I think that Marcelo Mayer is, he's looked pretty good after that first game. And so I think that is a reason to keep watching this next week. Hopefully we stay away from any type of drama about where people are playing or when people are playing, and we could just kind of enjoy him, getting his footing in the major leagues. At least that's something that I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I'm excited to see Rafael Devers keep breaking. He was he's the only player from my teen years that's still on the team now. So he holds a special spot in my heart.
I can't say that.
He's the only guy from my 30s that is still on the team, so he holds a place in my heart.
There's nobody on the team from my teen years. Alex Cora.
Yeah. Some of them from my teen years are dead now. So
yeah. Yep.
But yeah, I mean, what Devers is doing has been sort of incredible. I know at the beginning of the season we talked about how he was hitting well at home and not so well away. He had to get used to being a DH on the road, maybe. And if that was the case, he really has.
He figured it out. Yeah.
He's been, I'm not sure if it's been multiple times. I think it has been multiple times. He's been AL Player of the Week now. And
he should be the Player of the Month for May. I don't see there's any way that he's not.
Yeah. So I think that, that's a really good one, Maddie. I think that he is definitely a big reason to watch this team right now. And you just love to watch him lay, on the side of the dugout, just anytime you ever saw him slide into second and lay there for a few extra seconds, it's now you just get to watch him lay for extended periods of time.
I do miss him and Xander sitting on the top step of the dugout together with Xander's arm around him. That was I missed that a lot.
But now you get to see him do the Little Mermaid pose for an entire inning, just on the edge of the text. It's so good.
I was thinking more Titanic pose.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I
can see that.
They're kind of the same.
Yeah. They both involve water.
And I guess we did talk about it a little bit, but Carlos Narvaez too has been really fun to watch. And you're right, he probably will be the Rookie of the Month this month, and well deserved.
Rookie of the Year down the road.
I mean, I think if he keeps this up, I think that's a very legitimate conversation.
It is sort of ridiculous to think about all of the players that people talked about the Red Sox might get Rookie of the Year votes, and now it's sort of just it might just be Carlos,
the catcher who was barely a blip on the radar when he was traded.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Kind of in that vein, I think the thing that I am excited to watch over the next week is Christian Campbell is taking a lot better swings. And so I think that he is starting to come out of this hole that he has been in. And I think it was Lou said it yesterday, when he's hitting the ball to right field, that's how you know he's back. And that's starting to happen. I don't think that Christian Campbell is out of the Rookie of the Year conversation at all. It wouldn't shock me if this is his one dip this season and he is just on fire for the rest of the season. Unlike Marcelo, Christian still has a little bit of that rookie face. But I think that he's played very well, and I think that he made some plays at second these last couple series that I don't think he'd have made at the beginning of the year. And so why not just keep him at second? Let's keep him at one position. And if it's first, it's first. If it's second, it's second. But quit moving him around. Quit putting him in center field. Quit putting him in left field. Pick a spot, and that's where he's going to play for the next 8 years for the Boston Red Sox. But I'm excited to see him kind of figure it back out, because it looks like it's starting to happen and really kind of come back into that player that we saw in April. And hopefully he continues that for the rest of the season, because I think that if he's hitting well, that will help the transition for Mayer, who will then hopefully hit well. And, Narvaez is tearing the cover off the baseball right now. So I think that if they can all kind of be the rookie crew, then I think we're in a good spot. So hopefully Campbell is on the upward trajectory.
I did kind of hope that hemming Mayer up would help Campbell a little bit, just kind of be a little bit more I got buddies. around now.
The team is his friends.
That's right. I forgot about that.
I love that. I think about that way more than I probably should.
It's so cute and wholesome.
Both of my kids call their stuffed animals and stuff their friends, and so every time that they do that I immediately think about Christian Campbell and be like, I'm just in the dugout with all my friends.
Yeah, that's so good. That is so good. Right. Okay, that is the most positive note we could possibly end on.
It is. Yeah,
I think that's it. Yeah, just our friends.
Yeah, everybody, make sure you got friends and just be happy about it. But thank you for listening. Subscribe on all of your podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple, all that good stuff. We're on YouTube, so if you're watching it, sorry that this isn't a Sox hat. And you'll see that Maddie is still mourning Casas. But we really appreciate the listens. Please comment on the Talk Sox website. We'd love to kind of chat with you guys about the episode, and if we can get some interactions there, maybe we'll do a mailbag episode one day and let you guys tell me how stupid I am for trading Jarren Duran until it happens, and then I will be victorious. But thanks for listening.